just unreal. I saw Ain't Too Proud on Broadway.
Yeah.
I could not believe how really energetic the dances were. I mean, I thought you've got to be dead after something like this. Is that true?
Yes, it is true. It is true. But like athletes, we kind of think of ourselves sometimes as athletes. You get conditioned for it, but it takes a lot of fuel and a lot of water
On a
and a
two
lot of
show day,
rest.
what would that be like? What would that involve?
For me, well, I do a pretty kind of rigorous warm up for the day, and then I do the show, and then after the show, I kind of am eat and be quiet because I talk so much as Otis, especially in the show. I try to be as quiet as possible. I sometimes have PT to work on my legs to get them like blood flowing again, and then we do the night show, and then I go to bed.
Can you eat whatever you want?
No,
Really? Because
not yet.
if I was dancing that much, I would eat everything.
I know, but it's like it just you mean you want to, but like a certain part of you is like I can't eat. I try to eat I try to make sure I am eating an hour and a half before the show starts so that I'm not digesting any heavy food while doing all the dancing. That's the
Okay.
part that becomes fun. You're like, oh,
It,
I feel
I'm not
slow.
going to make it. We're not moving
Right,
that direction, right?
right. Move faster, body.
You have somebody, though, that the others don't have, which is you have the Otis that you could really talk to and ask questions of.
Yeah.
Did you ask him questions, and did you say, is this like it really was, or are we doing something else?
No, absolutely. He's been a part. Dr. Otis, or Uncle O, we call him, has been a part of the process from the beginning. So he literally like checks in on us every like 3 or 4 weeks. He gives us a call, checking in, and see what's going on. But he was always there for information. And the original boys got to when they were building the show, they got to actually sit in the hotel room with him for hours and literally berated him with questions. But he took that to understand that he needed to just be a source of information for us. So whenever he's around, he's like, ask me all the questions, and we do it. He just literally pours the stories out. And the stories in the show are directly from his book. So we're just doing what he said happened. So in
So
a certain degree.
did you find yourself wanting to be more like him or act more like him because, hey, if I'm playing him, I should come off that way or not?
Ish, our director, Des McAnoff, and our book writer, Dominique Morisseau, were very specific about not imitating, but capturing the likeness and spirit of the people, right? I think because there will never be another
Right.
David Ruffin. Like there was only one David Ruffin. There was only one Eddie Kendricks. Like there were such unique people that it's folly to think that we're going to imitate them and bring to living people who remember them that same memory. So we really focus on really getting the likeness and the spirit of them and really understanding the story and what our goal is to share new information to people who don't know anything and to share new information to people who know everything to let them, to these behind the stories scenes. So it's really about telling the story through this lens.
Did you have to do a lot of were you a Temptations fan, or because you're so young, that probably didn't graze your radar?
What's funny is that so we've gotten this question so many times. And I think what's interesting is that, I think for a lot of people in probably the African American culture, this music doesn't go anywhere. So my mother played Temptations music every Saturday while we cleaned the house. So it was never new to me. I grew up with it as if it were my music, though it was a very different time when it came out, when it was her music, but it was her music. So it became my music because that's what it was. So I was very familiar with the music and the sounds. I was not familiar with the story. And I think that is something that I think is fuels me and revolutionary about being able to do it now, is that there are so many stories that were considered uninteresting to tell back in
Right.
the days. But now that we are really interested in really telling the truth of this country and the truth of some of the people that we've loved and adored, it's really such a great opportunity for me to learn and then also teach people about these are real people with real, Motown wasn't this island over the water in some misty time. It was during the 60s, 70s, you know what I mean? And it was during the roughest times, and such beauty came out of that.
And well, and the, the thing that you don't know are the arguments they had and who was on the outs and who wasn't in the group, who just
Right.
jumped on the stage and wanted to be a part of it. I mean, all that stuff is like, oh my God, this is so juicy. And how did we not know this? Right?
Right.
Isn't
Right.
that the way it is? But
That's
you also did something that I don't even can't even imagine how you would do it, and that you were covering several different roles in the Broadway version of this. How do
yeah.
you do that? I mean, because
Ah,
it's hard enough to learn one role and then to do the others, and then their dance moves too.
right.
So
Yeah.
how did that work out?
For me, like my secret is one at a time, right? My secret is to as opposed to try and bite the whole hamburger in one bite. Take little bites every now, one at a time. And so that's what I take though. I covered 7 characters, 3 of them being Temptations, which are kind of heavy and dense roles. But I kind of make sure that when I study in one, I'm really studying it and I'm really laying the ground around and really making the ditches deep in each character so that when I'm in them, I'm not confused on what my path is.
Were you nervous? Like before a show and they say, and guess what? Today you're going to be playing this one. And you go, oh, wait a minute. Where do I go? Where do I look?
I may be one of those weird people that sometimes I don't have time to get nervous. I have so much work to do. Like, you know what I mean? I have to go, let me go find my book. Like, you know what I mean? And we've been in situations, I've been, been blessed to be in situations in which like the pressure has been on. So you kind of get, comfortable with the idea of the finger and the light is on you. What are you going to do? Freak out, cry, run, scream? Like, you know what I mean? You ain't got time for that. Go do the work. And when you've done the work already, you don't have to go find it. It's just there. So that's why I put my effort in putting in the work and making sure I have my notes, making sure I used to have a whole system. I had cue cards. I had books that were the whole character. Like when they called me, I'd pull down the book and open the book and just skim through it to make sure I give myself a little quick review. I have a little note card that with my entrances and exits. I had a system that helped aid me so that I wasn't nervous. My only nervous was like, my only thing I had to worry about was the actual performance of it, as opposed to where am I going?
What was the dancing the same? Because they're together and they're doing it. So if you were doing that, were you kind of at home base or?
Well, in a degree. So like a little trick I tell swings, right? As opposed to as opposed to thinking this is what this person is doing, it's because we're like 5 men dancing all the time, right?
Yeah.
It's like instead of thinking about what is this person doing, what are we all doing? What is the picture? So if I'm on the left side of the stage, everybody on the left uses the left hand. So if I'm on the left side of the stage, I know this move is going to be with the left hand. If I'm on the right, so I tried to make it some parts about the whole, so that wherever I was in the whole,
Sure.
in relation to the whole, I could know the differences. But generally, we have a lot of the similar choreography, right? The similar feet. We just have different arms to make the picture right.
Sure.
So some of that is a little bit of heady, but as long with the practice and understanding like the whole thing, and it's a lot of movement. It's a lot of movement.
Did you then look at these and say, what is the through line that connects these guys? Because having studied them, I'm sure there must be something they have in common other than the fact that there's music and dance.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think of it as Otis's story is the let's use music, right? Is the staff of music, right? All the other people and the elements are notes on that staff. So I think what I think the trick in this show is to understand what the actual journey is and what your part is in that journey. And think of it that way. So then it's like I know what everyone's
Sure.
job is to do. And when that's clear, then it's just about doing it, as opposed to being confused on what the point is, or even being egotistical about it's about me. It can't be about you.
Did you ever say to the choreographer, though, I don't remember the Temptations dancing this intensely? Because I've seen the Temps how many times now. Granted, they were older, but like I say, the choreography is so intense. Your jaw is open. I bet that's what you look at in the audience when masks went away. The jaws went down.
Yes, absolutely. And before, it's so Sergio Trujillo, who won the Tony for this choreography, um, uh, really made a point to not only honor it, but to elevate it, and Otis could not have been more happy, because I think that, because as we, just like the dollar, someone asked me a question. They were like, can you imagine having when things cost only a cent? And I was like, yes, but I think money always was the same value. We just changed with it, so you didn't feel it. Like, I was like, but if you had your money now and things cost us 1 cent, that'd be different. So I think that was the thing. Back then, that was a lot of movement for a dance group. They were doing what we are doing now, just to scale.
So
And
yeah, it just makes it comparative for us. We look at it and we go, wow, when we see that kind of thing.
absolutely.
You've also been in a lot of iconic shows. I mean, come on, Rant, In the Heights, you
Yeah.
name these things. What is that? What is that to be like? Certainly the biggest shows that we've had, I'm sure, in your lifetime, and you've been a part of them.
I I literally say that I don't know why it has come to me in this way. I don't know. I blessed seems to be like the overused but appropriate term for this. I didn't ask for it, like, in a certain degree. I wasn't seeking out, oh, let me figure out what the special shows are. And to be fair, when I joined Rent was the first time, because as musical theater, I did try to study musical theater, and but I've always been a musician,
Did
and
try, like you failed at this or something. I did try to study it.
no, I did. But when I got to, but no one told me, or no one could have prepared me, that when I joined Rent, that it wasn't just doing a show on a stage, that I would become the ambassador to a legacy and a movement. And I still put up the show today, after 18 years. I still put it up, so it doesn't leave you. No one would have explained to me that doing a show means almost like getting a tattoo if you put in the work, or really, like,
So it's always there with you.
it's always there with you. And when you're with a community like Rent, touched so many people, so now you're in some way connected to a whole world of people you never met and knew about. So that was kind of my first foray into, this is more than just a performance at 8 o'clock. This is more than just this character I'm pretending to play on stage. These are real people's lives. These are real stories. These are moving real people. And so that was my first kind of dose of, oh, this is more, this is special. And then to be able to do In the Heights and meet Lynn before Lynn was Lynn, like, to be able to have these experiences on the level in which I believed in the project, and the project was good for the people.
But you also did the film.
And I did a film, yes.
And
Right,
you did The Greatest Showman. I mean, my God, the credits alone, it's unbelievable. But what is that? Because there should be a dud in there somewhere.
Yeah, I think to a degree, the people who I've been aligned with are people who are excited to do good work in this world, who are excited to actually do projects that affect people in a way that is positive. And I think that just rubs off. And I think that keeps us, together. And people like, keep working with the people that you like working with, Alex Lackamore and Lynn, they were doing that. So that did that. And then Pasek and Paul, who I wasn't in Dear Evan Hansen, but they were big fans of Broadway inspirational voices. So they would come to every concert, and I had solos there, and they saw me in shows, and they asked me to.
You should be in The Greatest Showman. Let's put him
The Greatest,
right?
And that story, I was in another reading of a show, and I get a call from Paul, and he was like, from Justin, and he was like, hey, how are you doing? And I was like, hey, how are you? I didn't really know him. He didn't really know me, but
Right.
And he was like, what, are you available to happen to possibly for a reading? And I was like, yeah, I'm in the middle of one right now. I'm actually in the, like, we were running it, and we were in our intermission of the run. And I was like, and he was like, were you interested? I was like, yeah, I'm interested. I'm in a reading right now. And he was like, when is your reading over? And I was like, well, maybe like in an hour or so. And he was like, is it possible if we buy you lunch that you can meet us at the, at the studio? And I was like, I think so. And I did. I walked in and it's a full rehearsal. Everyone is there. And they were like, thank you for coming. And that was the beginning of my journey and the whole room applauded because they were my friends that I've known.
Wow.
And that was the beginning. And then 2 days later, Hugh Jackman came in to rehearse with us. And then we did it. And then we proposed the movie for the was it I think at the end, the actual entity, but like that was the movie pitch. And then the next thing I know, a year and a half later, we were shooting, and
They wouldn't have had that movie without you. That's what happened, right? Well, where does all of this lead? What would you like to be doing? Because certainly you'll be doing Broadway as long as you want to do that. But, is there like, do you want to write your own show? Do you want to somehow, I don't know what it would be, because when you've had so many highs in a career, where do I go from here?
Yeah, I think the level, if I'm thinking about it correctly, my level of like what I would consider successfulness is continuing to do good work. Like, I feel like it doesn't matter. I think good work, a diamond anywhere is still a diamond, whether it's on top of a mountain or, in a valley. So I feel like as long as you're doing good work, the work will speak for itself. So that's always what I'm seeking and what I always seek next. And thank God I am thought of useful in some of these projects to some of my friends, that they call me to do them, and that the things I'm passionate about, people want me to work on. So I think like those things have aligned in a way that's wonderful. And actually, I don't even particularly what's next for me. I'm really interested in new work, because I guess I've passed, when I was going in school, everyone gets to like the litany of the 7 black roles you can play or that are there, right? And as a kid, they're all too old for you, but you're trying to sing, Wheels of a Dream. And you're like, and there you are, trying to make those sounds. And when you get out into the world, you're supposed to like go and do all of them, right? And I never got that experience because of Rent, because I got it so quickly after college, and then I did it for 6 years. And by that time, the culture of musical theater has evolved, and then Lynn came, and then like now we're moving really into pieces where I think this is special, where before, when I get a project, I have to go into research and figure out where it comes from. Let's go do some history. Let's go talk to some people. But that's all I know musical theater to be. What was new was now that the subjects that we're talking about and the projects that we're doing, I am the source. It's about my time.
Nice.
It's about what I know. And it's about something I've lived through. When we do a play about the pandemic, we're going to be the source. Like, it's not like, and that's, to watch that happen makes me more interested in doing and being a part of the stories that are being written now about now, and accurately, because I can report on it because I was there.
Sure.
And less about like going to do some, the good old ones.
You're the Otis of our times, right?
I guess so. I'm living it.
Do you keep a diary, or do you keep track of the things that you do? And do you have the emotions written down so that you remember this?
I actually don't write a lot, but I do. I'm also a songwriter. So a lot of, I do write. I would kind of say, like, as emotions bubble up and they form, eventually they crystallize into something. Songwriting to me is like plucking those fruits and crystallizing them in music, so that when I go back to them, it really is almost like some supernatural, like I touch it and the memories flood and they open up into a whole world of things. So that's kind of how I catalog my experiences. But I tell you, some of these memories are so powerful. When I think about Rent, it will I don't think I'll ever forget the moments that really touch my heart and really make me feel purposeful as a human being on this earth,
Right.
even amongst the craziness. There are still those moments don't ever go away.
You know, the strange thing I find about Rent is when I saw it originally with the original company,
mm,
it had such a huge impact, I couldn't get past it. And when I saw it with a different company doing it, it was a
mhm,
whole different experience. It was
mm,
not the same thing, but I still held that original one with me. Is that
mhm.
weird? I don't know, but
No,
you know,
no, because it almost is like it almost we think scars as a negative thing, but I think the idea of scarring is the fact that it leaves an imprint on you.
right.
And we always attach the negative implication of that, but the positive is
Oh,
just as powerful.
you sing a couple of notes of Seasons of Love and I'm on the floor. You know,
Right,
that's how easy it is. But
right.
that's
Right.
amazing.
It's so much
But I got to
power.
tell you, Ain't Too Proud, uh, the jaw is always open. That's
It
the way that one is. So I'm just, and it's great to see their story. The story reminds me a lot of Jersey Boys, where
mhm,
it's like these, you know, I didn't realize all this happened. And then when
mhm.
you see how many temptations there were, it's like, oh, wow, I understand much more. But I love all that kind of battle they have with other Motown acts. I think
Yeah,
that's so good. And how the Supremes kind of get dissed a little bit in the whole process, you know,
right,
perfect. It's perfect because
right.
you remember those where well, you're too young, but there would be like, who is better? Is it the Supremes? Is it the Temps? Is it
Right.
who is it? You
Right. The
know?
tips are the tops. Yeah. Because and Barry Gordy was doing he was doing something so special, but it was in the thought process more so than the doing. If the special, like the real core was the way he thought about things. And one of his biggest phrases, competition beats greatness, right? So he would pit his groups against each other, in a fun way that was like, there was still a net of some sort because he wouldn't let anybody fail, particularly unless you did it. What I mean, unless
Right.
you did, but we would literally push them to make themselves more make them sharper. Otis said something. I think someone asked in one of our sessions if he while he was doing this, were you like comparing yourself to like the Beatles or the other people that were going around? And his honest answer was, I didn't have time to look at anybody else. I was too busy doing the work. It also, for the Black men then, and it was 10 times as much harder. They were
Right.
in the basement of some building rehearsing to then perform at some of the greatest stages. It wasn't like, it was like the process was more arduous. So he literally honestly said, I didn't have time to look to see what other people were doing. I was too busy doing this. And then Barry said, do better than the people next to you. And those people were the Four Tops or the Supremes who were already dominating, so that was, I think, revelatory to hear.
And that's one thing I think we're missing today. I don't think we have that kind of, if you will, that the culture that created these kinds of acts where they were really trained to be able to deal with things. And if you may remember, in those days, they were very respectful when they were doing interviews and they were not like saying bad things about anybody. Now, they might do it behind the scenes, but when they were presenting a public image, this image was very pristine, I thought. And
Yeah,
now people just haul out and say whatever they want.
right. He was, and it was again revolutionary for someone for a record label to take their clients and give them etiquette class and to teach them how to dress, teach them how to walk, teach them how to do interviews, teach the ladies how to sit, teach the gentlemen how to wear a suit, how to tie a tie. All the literally that was a part of before they hit a stage after the machine,
Right.
he those things were non-negotiable for no matter what you wanted to sing. And that was something that he thought was very important, especially, and I think also two things as Dominique Morris, our writer, and speaks about is one is our very existence was and during that time was an act of protest. Like the actual standing on a stage was enough to be an act of protest. And the other part was, if we're going to do this, why not show the best of us all the time? What's the point of showing why would I show you my dirty kitchen?
Right.
Why would I do that?
Yeah, I love, there are so many great messages. And then you get the one where you get to say, and then we were number one. You know, it's like, oh, yes, you want them to win.
Right.
Oh, did I spoiler alert? Right.
Oh, no. It's not a spoiler, but it happened. Like
I loved it. Yeah,
you didn't know
but
how we get there.
it's so fun. And I'm dying to see you in this. And hey, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Such a wonderful time talking to you.
Have a great one.
You too.